So, welcome. Hope we're good to go. Oh, my mirror's not just so. Yeah.
Where are they?
I know, I was, I knew.
Oh, there we go. Hi, Adam.
Okay, there we go. That's gotta go.
Your wishes are commanded.
All right.
Second,
When do we do the
Hey, they meet us in the room across the road afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
That's how it works.
We could do it there, 10B.
Okay. I'm just going to make a note to myself. Okay, so good evening. It is 7 o'clock. We have a quorum, and so I will recall this meeting to council to order. Welcome to everyone in the gallery. Just a reminder to folks watching at home that we are live streaming tonight on our YouTube channel, and it's also available on Tellil for the next week or so. I'll begin by acknowledging that we are gathered here today in Unama'ki, the land of the fog, a part of Mi'kma'ki, the unceded traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Since time immemorial, we honor and thank the Mi'kmaq for sharing their land and home with us. Please stand, if you're able, for the playing of O Canada.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command.
Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits.
God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Okay, I'll ask now that the CAO take the roll call of councillors.
Thank you, Madam Chair. District 1, Councillor Sean Sampson.
Present.
District 2, Warden Lowe's Landry.
Present.
Thank you. District 3, Councillor Brian Marchand.
Present.
Thank you. District 4, Councillor Amanda Mombriket.
Present.
Thank you. And District 5, Deputy Warden Brent Sampson.
Present.
Madam Chair, the roll has been called. 10B.
So we have an agenda in front of you that was circulated last week. Are there any additions to the agenda as circulated? Just a note that we had an in-camera session prior to this, and so we will add the motion that comes from that under 10B as required by the MGA. Are there any additional items to add? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. Moved by Deputy Warden Sampson. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sampson. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the, adopting the agenda as circulated, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. The next item on your agenda is a review of the minutes from our, what meeting is that? First one is the February 5th special council meeting. You have those in front of you. Are there any errors or omissions?
I will move the adoption of the minutes. Okay, do I have a seconder? Seconded by
Councillor Sampson. So move that the adoption of the February 5th minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No,
Motion. Oh,
that wasn't an aye, it was a question.
oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so. Go ahead.
Okay.
So this is going back to discussion on the motion?
Yeah, so was the motion for both meetings?
No, so this one is February 5th.
February 5th, okay. So I asked for my name to be recorded, and I was told it would be recorded, and then my nays for previous meetings would be recorded. And we got an email stating something in the MGA that says you have to ask before debate starts. So one set of minutes is showing nays, and the next set is not. So there was 2 nays, I think, on that motion. And we asked for them to be recorded. So we need to be consistent, and I don't think we should push back if someone asks for their nay to be recorded. I think it's important that the the minutes reflect that. So if people are looking back at the minutes, they know that this makes it look like it was a unanimous vote.
I think if I'm, just so I'm understanding clear, generally for recorded, you were looking to get it named anyway, right? Because it's always, like, as far as I can remember, it's always been, say, 3 in favor, 2 opposed, or 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Whenever there was any kind of a split vote, we never asked for anything. But we never asked to be named either. So are you looking for names, Councillor Marchand, or is it just?
Yes, I'm looking for my name, but at least state that there were 2 nays for that motion, because that motion makes it look like it was unanimous. I do want my name recorded for any of the nays. There should be no pushback on that. So all of them, for all of the minutes, since I started back, I think I've always asked and just assumed it would be done. I mean, if there's a process we need changed, then let's change that. But I would like them recorded. Thank you.
So, to that point, we did ask Municipal Affairs to give us some direction on that. And what they said is that because it's not listed in the MGA, how you do business, and because it's not in our council procedural policies, and it's actually not in the Robert's Rules of Order, that the general practice is that if a councillor or any member of any meeting requests beforehand that they would like, and it's actually before the vote is cast, that they would like their name to be recorded. The solution to that is that we can make a small amendment to our council procedural policy so that nobody ever has to remember that. So that is something we can do at our, so that it's never a question. So in this matter, I think we're okay with making the change, and the change that's being made, and we're just talking about February 5th right now. There are 2 sets of minutes, but just for February 5th, the change that you are asking for is for the recording of the vote.
Which item?
Do you want to just give us what the...
Oh, the vote that the final vote, not the...
Just before the
Not
adjournment.
the vote to revert to regular, the vote before the adjournment. Because no one votes nay on adjournment.
Really?
So...
Yes, I think it's that one there.
Yep, so moved by Councillor Amanda Mumbercat, seconded by Councillor Sean Sampson, that Council direct the CAO to act in the personnel matter as discussed in camera, and all it says is motion carried. So, you did ask for a
Recording, and at the same time, I made the statement that I would like all my nays.
It can say vote was 4-1, the one vote being Councillor Marchand,
3-2.
or 3-2, sorry. Councillors Marchand
Yeah.
and, I don't know who the second one.
And Brent.
I'm not 100% sure it was, because that's what I was trying to figure out, right? Based on our discussions, the wording of that, from what I can remember, I feel like I was okay with where we were going for the following period of time. That may have changed in the future, but I thought I was in favor of proceeding as we had discussed that night.
Two for the month, because you were gonna be engaged again if required, so.
I believe so, but I don't know if there's a recording of that can be checked back or anything.
So we know it was 4-1 for sure. And we believe it may have been 3 to, you're suggesting it was 3-2? Do you know who the other one was? You and Deputy Warden Sampson? And so Deputy Warden Sampson is saying, based on his recollection, which he's not 100% sure about. So can we be frank in our assessment? Can we say,
I guess the whole purpose of this discussion, not to just belabor it, it's just in the future, since we have no policy that says you can't or can, or should or shouldn't, I would like my nays recorded, and I would like it on this one as well.
yes.
So we can end the discussion.
Great. So we have an amendment or clarification to the minutes, which is that there are, following the last, just prior to the adjournment, we're adding that Brian Marchand's no vote is being recorded. Are there any other errors or omissions to the February 5th vote, minutes, I'm sorry? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to adopt the minutes of.
We already had the motion, so
Oh, we'll have to vote.
One discussion, so I'll call the question.
Do we have to amend the?
we need to amend the motion.
We need to amend the motion. So can you make an amendment, a move? There was already a motion. So you're asking for, can you move an amendment that reflects the change?
Okay, I'll move an amendment, I guess, that we record after the final motion carried before adjournment, that we record the vote count and my nay.
Okay, do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sampson. Can we have any discussion on that amendment? Hearing none. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. We'll go back now to vote on the amended motion, which is that we will adopt the February 5th minutes with the amendment indicating the vote count on the final item with Councillor Marchand's no voted recorded. Any discussion on that? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. Regular council meeting, January 28th. That's in your package. Councillor Marchand, is there any similar recording of the vote?
The nay was there on the holding arguments. Name wasn't.
Where is, which?
That was on the grant application.
Oh, yes.
So the fourth
It shows 3-1 because I abstained.
page,
Oh, yes, that's it. That's it.
fifth page.
Okay.
So.
Page 5 of the minutes.
Yeah, so I would like my nay recorded there as well.
Councillor Marchand, would you like to move the adoption of these minutes with change?
Yes,
The change that you mentioned, including your name on page 5.
on page 5.
Can we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councillor Mumbercat to adopt the minutes as circulated with the change on page 5 to reflect Brian Marchand's, Councillor Marchand's nay vote. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. We now have the question period, which is restricted to items on the committee report. The number is 226-9885. There is a slight delay, so we'll listen for a minute or two to get us, see if there's anybody on the committee reports.
While we wait, would you like me to make a motion to refer that policy back to bylaw? So we could make that change.
Yeah, we probably need okay, can we do that under? Yeah, when? No, yeah, sorry. No, while we're waiting for questions, I know we've just moved past the, or we've closed up or finished up with the review of the minutes, but it might not hurt if we had a motion to move that small change in the procedural policy, which is what actually Municipal Affairs thought would be best for us to do. So,
Refer it back to bylaw.
exactly, yeah, and bylaw.
What you're saying is they will always be recorded.
Exactly, yeah. And that was Municipal Affairs' recommendation to us. Since we have a procedural policy, we may as well capture that in there, and then it's never a question. Yeah. So we have a motion to refer this item in our council procedural policy to the Bylaw and Policy Committee for review. Can I have a seconder on that? Seconded by Councillor Marchand. Yes? Any further discussion on that motion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Hearing no questions. Shelley, I think we're okay there? Okay. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay. So next is the committee reports. We have a couple of those to get through, so I will turn this over to Deputy Warden Brent Sampson for the Committee of the Whole report.
Committee of the Whole report, February 2025. The committee met on February 11th, 2025. The committee discussed the multi-use facility feasibility study. I move that Council accept the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole and accept the multi-use facility feasibility study as presented.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sampson. Any discussion on that motion? None. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
The committee discussed the repairs needed for the Richmond Arena's under-ice surface refrigeration system. I move that Council accept the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole and direct staff to investigate any necessary applications for repairs to the Richmond Arena's under-ice surface refrigeration system and report back to Council.
There's a motion on the floor. Do we have a seconder?
Can you make the amendment before? I'd like to make an amendment to that.
No. So once a motion is on the floor, it needs a seconder, and then the seconder prompts debate, and then debate prompts the amendment.
So I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a seconder on the, and so maybe we can pull that up, Councillor. Okay, so debate on that motion. Councillor Marchand?
Okay. See my light on. I'd like to make an amendment to that where it says repairs to the Richmond Arena's under-ice surface refrigeration system. We just want to term that, I guess, the arena's under-ice piping and cement work and the whole refrigeration compressor system. I thought we had spoke of that.
We didn't, but I actually am pleased to hear that because I did review the 2019 document after our meeting, and it looked to me like those were very much linked, and that to try and do something after you had done the impact would be really counterintuitive. So I think, yeah, that does seem to lend, that seems consistent with the 2019 report that I read. Not that I'm an expert in ice surfaces, but it does seem consistent with that. So, okay, so. Okay, so.
I'll try. I didn't write it down, but.
Investigate any necessary applications for repairs to the Richmond Arena's under-ice surface refrigeration system report back to council. So you are asking for, under ice,
Surface piping system.
Piping and cement and the refrigeration compressor system. Get her that time, Shelley?
okay. So the amendment is to add surface piping system and cement and refrigeration compression system after the under ice surface refrigeration system to better reflect all the work that would need to be done. Can we have a seconder on that amendment? Seconded by Councillor Sampson. So we're voting on the amendment, would include these items that we are investigating. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. Is there any debate on the motion that now is expanded to include other items? Hearing none, for the sake of clarity, I will read the amended motion. I move council accept the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, direct staff to investigate any necessary applications for repairs to the Richmond arenas under ice surface refrigeration system, surface piping system, and cement refrigeration compressor system. Okay. All those in favor of the amended motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Brian?
I'm okay.
Yes?
It captures it.
Okay. Is that an aye on your part? That's an aye. Great. Moving on. Record that. Carry on, Deputy Warden.
The committee discussed the planning variance notification procedure. I move that council accept the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole and direct Eastern District Planning Commission staff to prepare the amending pages for the land use bylaws for West Richmond, Central Richmond, Ilmadam, St. Peters, and Richmond County, decreasing the variance appeal period from 21 days to 14 days.
On the floor, can we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Marchand. Do we have any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries.
The committee discussed the Atlantic Hydrogen Alliance membership. I move that council accept the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole and authorize staff to make an application for the municipality of the County of Richmond to become a catalyst member of the Atlantic Hydrogen Alliance.
You've seen the motion. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sampson.
No, it's fine.
Any discussion on that?
Just a thank you. I know I provided that memo and I couldn't make it that evening, so. thank
Nope.
you.
Deputy Warden did a great job of filling in for you on that front. And thank you for the thorough set of information you provided. It made it an easy discussion. Any other discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
The committee discussed the property assessment caps and home destroyed by fire and other disaster. I move that council accept the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole and have the warden draft a letter to the Provincial Department of Municipal Affairs asking for this change, as well as include our local NSFM representatives, Amanda Mummerkett and John Dunbar, to be made aware and advocate on our behalf.
Motion on the floor to direct Warden to draft a letter to that effect. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Marchand. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
The committee discussed the grant application from the Acadiaville Community Centre Society for Startup Activity Grant Funds in the amount of $500. I move that council accept the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole and defer the grant request from the Acadiaville Community Centre Society to the next council meeting.
Seconded by Councillor Marchand, and just a note that is on the agenda for this evening. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried. Sorry, all opposed? Motion carries.
The committee discussed the grant application from the Coastal Riders ATV Club for the Type 4 Regional Health General Grant Funds in the amount of $3,050. I move that council accept the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole and approve the Coastal Riders ATV Club for the Type 4 Regional Health General Grant Funds in the amount of $3,050 to be allocated as follows: $500 from District 5 funds, $500 from District 4 funds, and $2,050 from the Regional Fund.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Mumbercat. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of the grant application for Coastal Riders ATV Club, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
The committee discussed the grant application from the Isle Madame Boat Club for the Type 4 Regional Health General Grant Funds in the amount of $20,000. I move that council accept the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole and approve the Isle Madame Boat Club for the Type 4 Regional Health General Grant Funds in the amount of $20,000, contingent on CCBF eligibility, allocated as follows: $10,000 from the Waterfront Development Fund for the 2024 fiscal year, and the remaining $10,000 to be allocated from the 2025-2026 fiscal year.
There's a motion on the floor regarding the grant application from the Isle Madame Boat Club. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Marchand. Any discussion on that motion?
Yeah, so I don't know if, Warden, if it should read the 10,000 allocated from the waterfront development for this 2024-2025 fiscal year, and maybe maybe put in there, clerk, that the 2025-2026 is also allocations from the waterfront development fund.
So the clarification with that amendment would reflect that it is also coming from the Waterfront Development Fund, which may seem like just an insignificant issue, but it does reflect where money comes from. So I think that that's a reasonable amendment. Could you make that in the form of a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd like to put a motion forward that we do look at amending it and stating that it is from the 2025-2026 Waterfront Development Fund. Thank you.
Yes, good catch on that. Yeah. So can we have a seconder to the amendment?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councillor Mumbercat. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. So the amendment would be, so we're now looking at the original motion that has since been amended. So it is to provide the Isle Madame Boat Club with Type 4 amount in the amount of $20,000, contingent on CCBF eligibility, allocated as follows: $10,000 from Water Development Fund from the 2024-25 fiscal year, and the remaining $10,000 being allocated from the Waterfront Development Fund in the 2025-26 fiscal year. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
The committee discussed the grant application from the Whiteside Church Preservation Society for the Type 4 Regional Health General Grant Funds in the amount of $5,000. I move that council accept the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole and approve the Whiteside Church Preservation Society grant request for the Type 4 Regional Health General Grant Funds in the amount of $2,000 and be allocated from the District 3 funds.
Can I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Marchand. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
This concludes the Committee of the Whole report for the month of February 2025, and I move its adoption.
Thank you, Deputy Warden Sampson. There is a motion to adopt the Committee of the Whole report. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Marchand. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the Committee of the Whole report signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the Bylaw Policy Committee report for February 2025. I'll turn it over again to Deputy Warden Sampson.
Bylaw Policy Committee Report, February 2025. The committee met on February 11th, 2025. The committee discussed the 2019 Code of Conduct policy. I move that council accept the recommendation of the Bylaw Policy Committee and repeal the 2019 Code of Conduct policy.
There's a motion on the floor to repeal the 2019 Code of Conduct.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Mumbercat. For folks following along, that the Department of Municipal Affairs requires councils to adopt a new Code of Conduct, so this repeals one that had been in place prior to that. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of repealing the 2019 Code of Conduct policy signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
This concludes the Bylaw Policy Committee report for February 2025, and I move its adoption.
Thank you, Deputy Warden.
Sorry, Warden. I was pressing my button to second the motion.
Good. So there is a motion to adopt the Bylaw and Policy Committee report, which has been seconded by Councillor Mumbercat. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. So we have two items now for new business. One is the private road curbside collection, but maybe before we get to that, we had an in-camera session, and so I would ask for a motion to accept, what's the word?
The two applicants?
The two applicants, one for the IDEA Committee and one for the Richmond Recreation, the Recreation Advisory Committee.
So I would like to move that we appoint Donna Dittrich from Almadam to the IDEA Advisory Committee and appoint Clifford Boudreau to the Recreation Advisory Committee.
Do we have a seconder on those appointments? Seconded by Councillor Sampson. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of appointing the two individuals, one to each committee, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. I'll turn it over now to the CAO regarding private roadside collection requests policy. And this is about a motion to refer to the Bylaw Policy Committee for review and updating.
Is this one? I think this one is mine. This came through. Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah.
But that's okay.
That's all right.
You can speak to it.
Sure.
Whichever.
Very simply, it's the policy we have for roadside collection and what stipulates which roads we can go down, which ones we can't, and we're just looking to send this back to bylaw and policy for further review and additions or edits if required.
Great. So that's the subject at hand. Can I have a motion to take the private road curbside collection requests policy to the Bylaw and Policy Committee?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Councillor Mumbercat. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Deputy Warden Sampson, that we take the private road curbside collection request policy to the Bylaw and Policy Committee. Any discussion on that motion? Councillor Marchand?
Yeah, is this coming up because of a request in a subdivision? Okay. But I thought in that policy that subdivision owners just had a request to have garbage. I thought that was in there already. So they're asking for a request to pick up garbage in their subdivision?
So I guess I can speak to that.
Sure. So I'll ask Councillor Mumbercat to speak to the specific request. I will say that each district would have issues along this line, so I'm happy to see it go to Bylaw and Policy, but we can ask Councillor Mumbercat for a little more background, if you like.
Sure. Thank you, Warden. So yes, exactly right, Councillor Marchand. I was contacted by a private developer who's interested in developing a subdivision and was looking for really specific information on what level of quality, what the specifications would need to be for a road that we would be comfortable for liability reasons putting garbage pickup on. And so thank you to the CAO for providing some information on the policy we have in place now, and as well as the subdivision bylaw that you referenced. It does have some specs, but I think we could use some clarity in that so that it's easier for developers to understand the specs that they need to build to in order to be able to receive the maximum municipal services available in the county. So that's why I was hoping we could have that discussion. Kind of a housing, yeah.
Yeah, and it has come up that Richmond is different from other jurisdictions, so I think anything we can do to clarify that for developers, I think that's great. Any other comments, concerns, queries? Hearing none, all those in favor of referring this matter to the Bylaw and Policy Committee signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the correspondence. So there's actually no correspondence that require our action on our part, but you do have 3 items. One is, and the first 2 are actually, or sorry, 4 items, and the first 2 are in response to letters that I attached in our Committee of the Whole report. So there's been some really quick turnaround on some of these. So on page 16 of the package, you'll see a letter from the Honourable Fred Tilley, Minister of Public Works. So that's in response to the letter that we sent a while back about public roads, closed roads, and 2 in particular, Irish Cove Road, I believe, and Sterling Road, that were identified by fire services. So this is their response. I've shared it with the EMO coordinator. So information there will involve follow-up. So that follow-up in there will be taken. The next one is a letter received from the Department of Justice, so the Accessibility Directorate, in reply to concerns about family members on the IDEA Committee. As I mentioned at the Committee of the Whole, our letter has been received, and they are Municipal Affairs and the Accessibility Directorate is happy to have that as it goes into possible revisions of the Act. But as the Act states now, family members cannot be included in the 50%. They do talk about the ways in which family members can be included. I will say that at least I'm pleased that they have included Inclusion Nova Scotia. So this would be a matter of interest to them, so they can pursue that should they choose. But I would say that to bolster this, on the bright side, is that our letter does get included in the discussions about revision of that Act. So what they're talking about now is that it, under the current Act, that's where it lands. Next, 2 kind of go hand in hand. There is a letter from the Honourable John Lohr, Minister of Municipal Affairs. And so these 2 items are probably best considered alongside each other. So this one is to mayors and wardens. CAOs were copied. If you are supportive, the 3rd paragraph reads, if you're supportive of issues regarding, we may say yes to reduction in interprovincial barriers, etc., asking for your council to signal your support for greater resource development within our province by a letter or press release. So that is a letter that was dated February 11th from the Minister of Municipal Affairs. So not long after that, on February 12th, came a letter. So I'll get you a second, Councillor Marshall, but these 2 came back to back. So the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities President, Pam Mood, sent a letter to elected municipalities saying that they are working on some consolidation or a response to that. So on those 2 matters, I'll throw it up if anybody has any discussion, questions. Go ahead, Councillor.
So on the letter from Fred Tilley, he's saying it's not practical to reopen maintenance on these roads. But then he says, however, we remain committed to supporting emergency planning efforts in collaboration with municipal and emergency service partners. So are we going to pursue this any further, or are we going to go to the Fire Service Committee with it and see what because it was them that brought this forward. So do you want to pursue this, or do we just leave it? Because
No, I believe that the Emergency Measures Coordinator, is that the title? Right. So I believe that he was going to kind of revisit this and see what their next steps are. So the next meeting for fire services, I believe, is in April. So I'm hoping that they can have an informal discussion, or they can make a, but happy to hear from our fire services committee about how they'd like to proceed. Okay, Councillor.
and my next comment, the
Actually, can I just stop you there? Is there anybody who has any other
Oh.
questions then about the Fire 3 letter from Fred Tilley? Maybe we'll go letter by letter again, since I breezed through all four of them. No? Okay, anybody have any comments, questions, concerns about the letter from the Accessibility Directorate? Okay, so I find the two next letters really kind of go hand in hand. So Councillor Marchand, if you want to, is that what you were going to speak to?
Yeah, I guess my comment for this one was, it's not under action required, and I thought maybe they were looking for something, that we should send a letter. I get the impression from the NSFM that they have concerns with it. I have no concerns with it, but those concerns they address are concerns, for sure. So I don't know if we should make a motion that we send a letter, because it seems like they're asking. They want you to consider if you're supporting it or not. So I'll leave anybody else make their comments.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Okay. There we go. Thank you. I somewhat agree with Councillor Marchand, just in the sense that that letter from the minister did specifically ask us to signal. I think, obviously the following letter from NSFM, sort of, I think we should wait before we make any grand statements. But I do think just from a, just as good, good etiquette, we should maybe just reply back to Minister Lohr, thanking him for his letter and letting him know that, we'll be in touch in the coming weeks. Because you can certainly tell that there's a sense of urgency coming from the provincial government around this. So, I'd be interested in making a motion. I would make a motion to respond to Minister Lohr, thanking him for his letter and letting him know that we'll be considering this as a council and get back to them in the coming weeks. Just as good relationship management with the province, right? So.
So there is a motion on the floor to respond to the Minister of Municipal Affairs in this part of his job description, to respond to thanking them for their letter, and that we will get back to them in the coming weeks. So that's a motion on the floor. Can I have a seconder for the sake of debate, or seconded by
Yeah, I'll second that
Councillor
motion.
Sampson? Is there any discussion on that motion? Go ahead.
Councillor Membercat, are you just wanting us to send the letter that we're considering it? We're not supporting it either way? Okay.
Councillor Deputy Warden?
Yeah, and I think that's a safe bet to go in that direction. Partly too because there's two things mentioned in it. One is a reduction in the interprovincial trade barriers. The other is resource development. However, the last paragraph seems to just speak of the resource development. But yeah, I think just that we're considering it going forward. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I do believe there are, I think, letters that are going to circulate saying, you shouldn't write letters like that because of fracking is a terrible thing, and you should write letters like that. So, I'm sure that there will be lots of opinions weighed in by different groups, and so I think a fulsome response from us is likely best. Spend a little more time thinking about that. So the motion on the floor, is there any other discussion? This is to reply to the to the Minister of Municipal Affairs letter saying thank you, and we'll respond after careful consideration. Any other debate on that? Okay. All those in favor of writing that letter to the Minister of Municipal Affairs signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other discussion on the final letter from the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities? Okay. Great. So unfinished business, the package, so the amendment, I did, just by way of explanation, I did speak to the Acadiaville folks, and Christine Babin in particular, who is the name on the submission here. I did just want to clarify that to recognize that there was nothing about this process that made them better able to do it. So that's kind of the difference between startup and sponsorship. And I was worried that they would get hogtied in, tie themselves up in having to do it again because they called it a startup activity. So you'll see that the front page has been amended. So it's essentially the same dollar, same request, but I think it speaks to the better thing. So sorry, I didn't speak to anybody before this, but I'm happy to see $500 from District 3 funds go to that. So if anybody can give me a hand.
Yeah, the first page is the same.
It is,
Just they went under type 3.
yeah, so that's right.
First page is the same.
Sorry, it's second page. That should be different. Yeah, apologies.
I'll move that we accept the grant from Acadiaville Community Center to the amount of $500 coming from District 2 funds. That's where you want them to come from? Yes.
I'll second that, Warden. Thank you.
Okay. So all those in favor of $500 coming from District 2 funds for the sponsorship grant with the Acadiaville Centre, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, motion carries. So there is no other unfinished business in our package. However, starting on page 33 and going right to the end of our package is the review of action items there for you to peruse. Is there any comments, concerns, Councillor Marchand?
I don't remember which number it is, but how's the email between you and DCB going?
Madam Chair, through you. They got back to us yesterday, I think it was. It went to the board, and they are willing to open up the previous years as well as this year's, but they want to put a letter with it, and so they're working on the letter, and once we have the letter, then the 24, 25, and 23 and 24 can be released publicly. That's the best the board was willing to do. There's just a letter that they want to include with those financials for clarity. And once we have that letter, then we'll pass that along and give you guys the green light to do what you need to with it.
It may come in the form of that letter, but was there any discussion about why not the years before that, or we might?
None.
Yeah, we might find that in the letter and we can respond accordingly.
So we'll wait.
Yep, yep.
That's
Okay,
all I'm doing at this point.
sure. Any other comments, concerns, queries of items on the action plan? No? Okay, so we'll now, we'll open it up for 10-minute question period, and this is for folks watching at home as well. Residents can call 226-9885. This is restricted to items on the agenda that follow the committee reports. Always a little delay there, so we'll just sit tight for a second. Always catches me.
Just getting ready for you.
It's just, I'm always struck by the delay.
I know.
You just think you're good, and then somebody phones in.
Do you want to check if there's anything in the gallery? Anybody in the gallery?
You guys are good back there? Okay. Oh, we have a question. Good. Good. There you go.
I think I do. There's people out there that don't know me. Richard Cotton, resident of District. just back to Brian's point on when you're having a motion. I don't know when it changed, but I know and that's been many years ago since I was warden, when there wasn't unanimous, the warden would ask the individual councillors, do you want your nay recorded? Now, that doesn't mean that, let's say in this case, there was two. Well, maybe one of them wanted to record it and one didn't. So there would be two against, and Brian's vote would be recorded. And the other one, that's their choice. So I don't know when it changed, but that's the way it always was. Just for information purposes.
Yeah, well, so yeah, it's interesting because it's not in the MGA. So one of the things that they're sort of trying to teach new councillors is the sort of order of operation. So if it's in the MGA, that trumps everything. Yeah. If the MGA says that council may put procedures in place. So if you choose to put procedures in place, that actually trumps Rob's Rules of Order. So that is your next sort of level. Right, and it says in the Municipal Government Act that council may, so it's not shall. So if you don't have them, then you would follow Robert's Rules of Order. Exactly, so because there was a new council procedural policy put forth this summer, that changes the order of operations. So.
Why would council do that, though, if you're operating under Roberts?
There are some areas that so it could be Roberts, it could be Burnos. There are different municipalities that use different levels of, I can't speak, I wasn't part of council, but there are more and more municipalities that seem to be doing that. Particularly some of the concerns, and maybe somebody else would like to speak to this, is just that Robert Rules of Order, if you want to extend the number of times that a councillor can speak on a matter before it closes debate, that's the way to do that, is through council procedural policies. Does anybody have anything else? Sure.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and honestly, what it boiled down to us, like in my mind, was consistency. We wanted to have consistency in the way that meetings were running, not just from meeting to meeting within our council, but meetings and future councils. And you make the point that we used to do it this way. Don't know when that stopped. Well, this type of a policy will help us be more consistent over time. There was no policy. Yeah, there was no policy. So it's just a piece that we missed. So that's why we referred.
Great, thank you. And I think plenty of time has passed for our phone.
Lois? The email that you sent us, it says, just a note from Shelley regarding her question in municipal affairs on no votes. And you... No, but I just want to say this. Recording of names for no votes is not in the MGA, council procedure, or Robert's rules. I spoke with Ross, and he said that a councillor can ask to have no votes recorded before the debate starts. And that's the reason I brought this up tonight. Yeah. If it's not in the MGA, it's not in Robert's rules, and it's not in council procedure, why would he even make that statement that you can ask before debate?
And I assume that that is a procedural policy that seems to align with Robert's Rules of Orders, but the solution is for us to put it in our council procedural policy. And it also wouldn't force anybody to remember each time. It would be, sure. One final point on this.
But Richie brings up a good point. If a councillor doesn't want their vote, their nay vote recorded, we put in a procedure that they are going to be recorded, that may be a problem.
Which is why we will bring that up at the Bylaw Policy Committee. Yep.
Conversation, it's a good point.
Yep. Okay, seeing there's no further business on tonight's agenda, this meeting of council is adjourned. Thank you.
Good job.